Just a note that this video will contain spoilers for Skinamarink and Enys, so if you plan on seeing either of those movies and do not want things spoiled for you, click away now.
In this house.
I feel like we're entering into a new era of horror, that being experimental horror. Now, it goes without saying that experimental horror is super divisive, incredibly so. I mean, looking at how people receive Skinamarink is living proof of that. I have very mixed feelings on Skinamarink. Honestly, I didn't think it was that scary in the moment, and even found it boring at points. However, that night, as I looked into the dark corners of my room, I definitely started to see what the hype was about. If you don't know, Skinamarink is about two kids, Kaylee and Kevin, who wake up at night to find that all the windows and doors in their house are gone, along with their parents. Honestly, from that premise alone, sounds pretty terrifying. Or it did to me at least. But if there's one thing both Enys, which I will discuss later, and Skinamarink are bargaining on, it is that the viewer becomes immersed in the world it creates. You have to let your imagination run wild. Because honestly, the horror of this movie comes from your interpretation and how you fill in the blanks and how you perceive things. This is something I feel is not that common in horror movies today, especially those that are relying solely on jump scares to freak out the audience. So I really do appreciate Skinamarink for tackling this unconventional approach that, honestly, I wish was explored more in the horror scope. Anyway, I feel like I could easily get myself immersed in this world, as I had a fear of the dark as a kid, or more adequately of what was in the dark, so I tried to tap into that part of my brain. This definitely helped me see what Skinamarink was going for, and what it set out to achieve. Now, this is definitely a love letter in a sense to analog horror, and it shows. The jump scares and visuals are very reminiscent of the Mandela Catalog, for example. The difference between these two, however, is that Mandela Catalog, for the most part, consists of short-form videos, while Skinamarink is a feature film, clocking in at a cool hour and 40 minutes. And when there are extended shots of the wall, floor, and just overall a lot of repetition, it can get tiresome fast. And not gonna lie, as I mentioned previously, I was getting pretty bored. But the end did get my attention real quick. That face in the dark is just the thing of nightmares. With all that being said, I appreciate this movie and what it's going for, and I feel like it pulls off what it's set out to do, because it really does capture that feeling of a creepy nightmare you would have as a kid, and having an overactive imagination. Another movie to come out of this experimental horror genre is Enys, which is Cornish for Stone Island. This movie is about a woman living on an island, go figure, who observes this rare flower and sees no changes with it for many, many days, until one day she does. And basically she starts to go slowly insane and question her reality. This movie has gotten a lot less attention than Skinamarink, which is a shame, because I do think there is something substantial here. Obviously, not everyone will like it, and it does have a lot of that repetition akin to what was present in Skinamarink. The difference is that Enys is just beautiful to look at. Like, the cinematography in this movie is just gorgeous. I also love whatever grainy filters over it, like, it's just really nice to look at. This movie has an underlying creepiness that got to me while I watched it. I wouldn't necessarily say it was as creepy as Skinamarink, but just some of the shots in this movie really got under my skin. There's also a story to piece together here. Definitely more of a story than there was to Skinamarink. As the movie goes on, you start to see the woman, otherwise known as the volunteer, envision this man, who we learn died in a boating accident. We also see this girl sporadically throughout the movie, who we find out is the volunteer when she was younger. And the volunteer has this scar along her stomach, and lichens start to grow on it, and then through a flashback we learn how she got that scar in the first place. There's also these miners that make an appearance a few times, and at one point, while throwing a rock down a well to check the water level, she sees one of these miners, and that honestly really freaked me out. One thing I don't really understand about this movie is what the deal is with the giant rock. Like, obviously it's meant to be important, which I got by like the 50th shot of it. I'm just not entirely sure what it's meant to symbolize. Overall, if I could sum up the feeling I got from both of these movies, it would be unsettled. I really do appreciate these movies and how they are made. It is really a risk to make a movie like this because there is almost certainly going to be a divide from viewers. Personally, from my experience with these two films, my opinions on experimental horror lay somewhere in the middle. I'm definitely interested in where this genre will go in the future, and if anything will change due to the reception of the movies that have come out. If you've seen either of these movies, let me know your thoughts in the comments, and see you next time.